it's Stephanie with the Ranchers Homestead. Welcome back to the channel. So this week we are talking chores. We are heading outside, or we are outside, and we are going to follow the girls around and see what kind of chores they do out here on the ranch. One question I get asked often is, how do I get my girls to do chores? What chores do they do? And for what ages? And so I'm going to go through all of our chores and the ways that the girls help us out here on the ranch, both outside and inside the house. And we're going to break it down by ages and kind of what responsibilities they have and the tips that I have in getting them to do it willingly and not with minimal complaint. Now, I will say this, my girls are not angels. They do complain about chores sometimes. They don't want to do them, but heck, I don't even want to do them sometimes, so it's okay. But I do have some tips up my sleeve that does help to get them to do it with a better attitude. So let's go follow them around and see what they got going on this morning out here. Okay, so we are back inside from our morning chores outside. So the girls are all responsible for chores outside in the morning, and most of that is just feeding our smaller animals. My husband takes care of the horses and the cattle, and then the girls usually take care of show animals and just animals outside. So I went ahead and made a list of the things that they're responsible outside for, and then the things that they do inside that they are capable of doing and that help out. Now, there are things that my girls do for our just running operation that I don't necessarily classify as chores, but they are very capable of doing, and they help out tremendously around the ranch. So some of those things that I did not put on the chore list would be processing cattle, would be building fences with my husband, would be catching horses if they need to be caught. They can saddle their own horses. The two older ones can saddle. Usually just myself or my husband needs to throw the saddle on because they're not strong enough to get their saddle up and over, but they very much know how to do it themselves. And just things like that are not necessarily chores, but they are vital parts of our working ranch, and they are a part of in all of those things. So they all have learned how to drive equipment and four-wheelers and all of those things, and they started when they were really, really young. But what we're going to focus on today is just the chore side of it, because I know not everybody that watches my YouTubes are living on a working ranch and need that side of it. So we're going to just focus in on household chores and the outside chores if you have a homestead or a little farm or just some backyard animals. I mean, that works too, that the kids can very much be a part of. So I'm going to break it down into my age groups, and then I will break it down from outside versus inside. So since I just showed you the things that they are responsible for outside in the mornings, I'll go with that first. So I would say around 2.5 to 3 years old to up to 5-year-olds is this category. And granted, some of the things that they do outside are more towards 5-year-olds. But as a 3-year-old, they can very much scoop one little scoop of cat food and put it in. I think that's not a hard task for them to be able to learn. And so these are the things outside that my 3-year-olds to 5-year-olds are responsible for. And that would be feed dogs and cats. More 5-year-olds would be collecting the eggs. So Emily is almost 6 and she collects our eggs for us. And weeding the garden. That's something that you can teach them so young when you're out there, to weed the garden with mom and to teach them what are weeds and what are the things that you don't want to pick. So when the plants are still really itty bitty, you have to have a very watchful eye when they're this young and know your child. If your child is one prone to really just start pulling on everything, maybe this isn't the chore for them yet. But a lot of what I give my kids in chores is based on their maturity levels too. So what my 3-year-old may be able to do, your 3-year-old may not be, or what your 3-year-old is able to do, mine may not be. So just really gauge off of their maturity level as well. I did my next category between 6 and 8 years old, and then so this jumps up a little bit more. Now, when I say these chores, like the very first one I said, clean the chicken coop. That means clean it without my assistance. So my 5-year-old definitely helps with cleaning the chicken coop. She gets in there with us as well, but I wouldn't send her out there to do the job and do it successfully all by herself. So I would say that now into this category, they are able to start doing it all by themselves and know what tasks need to be done. My 8-year-old also feeds the chickens and she fills the water. So she checks and makes sure that the water isn't frozen. They all know out here that water freezes in the wintertime, and they know what to do if a trough is frozen, and that they need to take the ice out so it doesn't just refreeze back up and all of those things. If they need boiling water, they usually come in and get me, and I will boil it. My older daughter can take the boiling water out. My younger daughter is too heavy and it's too hot that I usually carry it out for her. When we have pigs, my 6 to 8-year-olds can feed pigs. Feed any show animals that we have, and then also weed the garden and harvest produce. That is a huge help, because if I'm in here cooking and I need something from the garden, I trust them at that age to say, hey, go pick me such and such, and they know what is right and what is not. And a lot of that just takes experience, them being out in the garden with you and being able to do those things. But I highly recommend getting them in the garden at a young age, even though it's hard and sometimes they are destructive. But it helps so much for them to learn and then be a helping hand in that time. Okay, so my 9 to 11-year-olds. Now I only have a 10-and-a-half-year-old, so this is my end of my gap because I don't have anyone older than that to base off of what kind of chores we do. But her outside chores are feeding her show steer and any small animal. So any category that I have placed for chores in the age bracket, obviously anyone older than that can do those. So all the small animals like feeding chickens and pigs, it's not my oldest responsibility right now to do those, but she's very capable if I needed to switch around chores at all. So right now she feeds the dogs and the show steers, and her show steer. She can fill waters, break ice on the water troughs, and know what to do, pitchfork out the ice and all of that. She can clean pens and the coop and do it successfully and well. That's a big task over here. And then, of course, weeding the garden and harvesting produce when needed. So those are all of the outside chores that my girls are responsible for that are like everyday tasks. And like I said, that's not including the just not day to day, but the things that we need to do along the ranch, like building fences, processing cattle, helping with the canning. So for me, once I get produce inside and we do big harvests, helping me prep that harvest to be able to can, those kinds of things. Those are things that they are just capable of and they help us with, but doesn't necessarily mean that they do them every single day. So those are our outside chore list for our age groups. Now we are I'll talk about my inside chore list and what we do on the inside. So those are just a few of the glimpses of the things that the girls are responsible for inside. Those change on day to day. I am very helpful or very aware that they can do so many other things, and so I just pick and choose things. So there are things that they are responsible for every single day, like doing the dishes, making their bed, folding clothes, putting them away, cleaning their room. But if there's something else I need help with, then I ask them to jump in and they will help doing that. So for kids that are 2.5, 3 years old to 5-year-olds, one of the first things they can do with dish helping is sorting the silverware. So if you have a dishwasher, we don't, but if you do, you can just take out the sharp knives and hand them the little basket full of all the silverware, and they can sort them and put them away. And that's something super easy that they can do at such a young age, and that helps them get involved. Putting their clothes away, making their bed every single morning, cleaning up their toys. Now, I will say this. When you are giving your children tasks, especially when they're really young, you can't expect adult results. And that's so hard for me. And as I give them harder tasks, it's even harder for me to not expect adult results. And so just remember that when you're giving your children chores, they do get better. And they do get more capable, and they do get more successful at it. But in the beginning, it's kind of rough, and it's okay. They're learning, and I'm a perfectionist, so that is so hard for me. But it is so important for them to be involved and do these things. At 5 years old, my 5-year-old, she dries the dishes for us, and she does a really great job at that because we don't have a dishwasher, so we kind of do an assembly line. She can dust with the help of others, so on the tall things that we usually, somebody else does. Now, I don't use cleaning products. I use different things, but we usually just use a wet rag to dust with some essential oils on it, and like a microfiber wet rag and some essential oils, and she does the dusting, which is really helpful, and they can wipe baseboards at that age. Think about it. Those are tasks you don't want to do, but it's at their level. Give them a wet rag and let them just crawl around on the floor and wipe all the tops of your baseboards. It's so fun for them. They think it's fun. Now, if they're doing it every week, sometimes the fun wears off. But it's something that is at their level. They can't really screw it up, and they feel accomplished when they're done. Okay, 6 to 8-year-olds. When they get to this age, they can fold clothes. Now, I will say my 5-year-old, she folds clothes as well. That's kind of something that we all do. I do one load of laundry a day, and at the end, everybody folds and puts away, which is just take 2 seconds when we all do it. And so she's equipped to do that. But if that's something like you just have a 5-year-old, that might be something you want to work up to. 6 to 8-year-olds, they fold laundry. My 8-year-old can start a load of laundry, switch it. She can do the whole process of laundry, which I highly encourage you to teach your young ones that. It's so helpful. When I went on a women's retreat 2 weeks ago and the girls stayed home with Clint, I told my 2 oldest, I said, please just don't let me come home to a mountain of laundry. At least do 2 loads. I was only going to be gone for 2 days. Do 2 loads, 1 a day. And they were like, okay. When I got home, I asked if they did. And my 8-year-old was like, yeah, I did all the laundry. So I did not come home to a mountain of laundry. Teach them young. It really benefits you. They put away their clothes at this age, can do the actual dishes. So not just drying dishes, but washing them and the whole process. Like I said, we don't have a dishwasher, so they have had to learn within the last year, very young, how to do the whole process. They can make their beds, which I start that super young because that's a big thing of mine. I want all beds made in the beginning of the day in the morning. I think it's just such a good task and routine to get into. They clean their room, clean up around the house. She can sweep all my floors, and she can do it successfully where she can see where there's crumbs and different things and really get it, and do the dustpan and the broom together to get it up off the floor. She can vacuum. At this age, she can dust alone, even the high spots. Wipe baseboards just like the younger ones. I've even had my girls, especially where there's a bed and stuff, do the fans at this age so they can wipe off all the fans with just a wet rag. My 8-year-old is starting to cook simple meals. So I'm teaching her how to do simple things that she will eventually lead up to the bigger meals that she can take over a meal and be able to do. So those are the things that I have on the inside that my 6 to 8-year-olds do. Now 9 to 11, which would be my oldest, she can do all of the same things that my 8-year-old does, obviously. So making bed, doing dishes, putting clothes away, doing the laundry from start to finish. But one thing that my 10-year-old has started doing is the ironing. And I know that sometimes is a scary thought, thinking a hot iron with your children doing it. But if you teach them the safety of it and how to do it, it's such a help. I hate ironing. I hate it. And Clint, I iron his shirts every single week. And now that my 10-year-old, she likes it. So I'm like, you do the ironing. So she's our ironer now, and it works out perfectly. My 10-year-old, like I said, 2 weeks ago, I went on a women's retreat for 2 days. She cooked all their meals for them. So because I started at 7, 8 years old, teaching her how to do things in the kitchen and letting her do things and follow recipes. And I have, since she was about 7, and I'm doing that with my 7, 8-year-old now, follow recipes. Show her what tablespoon means and teaspoon means, how to, where are measuring cups and how to look at it and how to double it and things like that. She is very capable in the kitchen, and it's such a blessing. She cooked all their meals for them. She made rice-a-roni, home from scratch rice-a-roni and pork chops one night that I was gone. They were, Clint said it was really good. So like I said, they can do such hard things when you give them the tools to do it and you teach them. It's not going to happen overnight, and you have to have the patience, and sometimes I don't. And so sometimes I'm just like, I need to do it today because I don't have the patience. That's okay too. But make it a rule of thumb to try and get them involved so that they can learn these skills. They put, where am I at? She can clean my bathrooms and do them successfully. Even my 8-year-old is getting really good at cleaning bathrooms as well. She knows my routine and how to clean bathrooms. And for whatever reason, they like doing it. So I'm like, go for it. If you want. So so Fridays are my clean house days. That's usually our day of the week that I get everything back in order from a long week. And then we move into the weekend. And it's been that way for years. They know Fridays are my cleaning house day. And usually I do it because I'm OCD and a perfectionist and I like it done my way. And so I kick everybody out and I just go to town and clean my house. However, there are some Fridays that it just doesn't work and I need that extra time. And so I will tell them in the morning when they wake up, we're all going to clean the house today. Everybody needs to pick a chore. I don't give them a chore. I let them pick. Usually Emily, I gear her towards, my youngest, towards dusting because that's she's most capable of doing. And then the other two, I really let them pick. And a lot of times they pick cleaning the bathroom and mopping the floors, the two that I hate. So it works out. But they love to sweep and mop, and both of them are very capable and good at it. It takes them longer than it would take me, but that's okay. And they're very capable and good at cleaning the bathrooms, which is so helpful because if someone's coming over on a whim, I can say to them, go clean the bathrooms really quickly. Even if it's just a spot clean, go clean the bathrooms really quickly. And they know how to do it. And that is so helpful for me. And then the last one is mop and sweep. So those are the chores that I would say are our most done, or they do them every single day for the ages that I have. Now, like I said, there are things that are just a part of our lifestyle that they are responsible for, but these are the things that we do on a regular. Here's my best tip for getting kids to joyfully and willingly do chores. Number 1 is your attitude. If your attitude isn't good about them, their attitude's not going to be good about them. And so I try and be happy about it and say, hey, we're all going to do something. It's going to get done quickly so we can move on about our day. Number 2, stick with your routine. If you're inconsistent, then they're going to complain. So if they just know that every single morning, no matter what, they have to get up, make their bed, get dressed, and go outside and feed animals, they're just going to do it. There's been so many times where I intended to do it for them because of whatever reason, and next thing I know, Paige is walking back in the house from doing her chores already. I never got a chance to get out there yet, and she had already just done it because that's a part of her routine. If you're wishy-washy about it, and some days you make them do it, and some days you don't make them do it, then the days that you do make them do it, they're going to complain because tomorrow you may not make them. So why do you need me to do them today? So stay consistent. Routine is key. I do make my kids do chores Monday through Saturday, and Sundays I always do the chores. So I just give them a break. I let them sleep in, It's a Sunday, so they sleep in, and I just go out and do the chores and then come back in and make breakfast. And I'm an early riser, so it's not a big deal to do that. And that's just something that I do for them as just like a thank you. And I feel like they really appreciate that, because when I tell them I did your chores today, or if I do it on a random whim, you can tell that they're very happy and thankful that I thought of them and did that. My tip number 3, and this tip is hard. It's hard for me because I'm a perfectionist, but it's so vital, and I see it in my kids. My husband's really good at it, and I have seen so much growth in my kids, and that is giving them tasks that you think they are not capable of doing and watch them blossom. They are so much more willing to do something that they think is an adult task than something that's just a kid's task. And that is something that's really hard for me, because I want adult results when I do that, and that's not going to happen right off the get-go, but it will. So let me give you an example, and this is why my husband is so good at it, and he's done it at a young age, is when we first moved here, cross country to Missouri, I was his sole ranch hand. The girls helped, but it was me and my husband. And when we processed cattle, he worked one side of the chute, I worked the other side of the chute. The girls were always there, and they would help with little jobs, and they'd put the ear tag on the ear tagger, and they'd do those things, but they didn't do the main jobs. And now I don't even go outside. It's a year in, and my 10-year-old is branding and ear tagging. My 8-year-old is vaccinating and worming them. My 5-year-old brings the cattle up the lane and keeps them coming into the chute all the time, and then puts the ear tags on the ear tagger ready for the next ear tag. So they are so capable. They are so capable of doing the hard things, and they're so motivated when they feel like it's an adult task. And so that would be my next big tip, is if you have a task that you think, I just think they're too young for, give them a shot. Let them try it and see what happens. And teach them. Don't expect adult results right away. Teach them. Let them grow into it. And you will be so glad that you did. So that's my take on chores, kids' chores. I hope this was helpful, gave you some ideas on what your kids can be able to do. And we'll see you next time. Next week, I am going to do planting seeds. So we're going to get our seeds started. So make sure to come back next week. Make sure to follow us on Instagram for daily life on the ranch and some recipes sneaked in there. And don't forget to go to the blog as well. I share all of our stuff on our blog as well. So I hope that this was a helpful video for you, and we'll see you next time. Take care.